Welcome, everybody. So today we will talk about immunotech and Immunocal. So, Dr. Gottman, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Lucien, for inviting me to this call. So I understand that this uh, will be watched by many health professionals, and so I will be directing this mostly to the audience of other doctors. As you may know, Immunocal is classified as a natural product, but as you will see, we have done extensive research in this substance. So if anybody is looking for more information, there's my Facebook page and there's a YouTube channel, and you will find many articles and many videos on Immunocal and on glutathione there if you want more information. So let me start off by asking you all, and this pertains to a study done on American adults, but I'm sure this applies to most countries that you're from. What percentage of adults take advantage of complementary or alternative medicine? Well,
Hmm.
may be surprised, but over 80% of your patients are going to be using complementary or alternative medicine. Actually, there is. And these patients are much more likely to have a high income and to have a high education. Now, of course, you as doctors uh, will have a certain bias against alternative medicine. It is underregulated. There are false and misleading claims. There's a lack of standardization. There's potential interactions with other medications and much more. But that doesn't matter because your patients are going to use complementary and alternative medicine anyways. Well, there are three solutions for you and your patients and researchers to accept natural supplements into your practice. There are three ways to do that. The first way is through research. The second way is through research. And you may have guessed the third way, again, research. The only way that nutritional supplements will be completely accepted by conventional medicine is if they're put through the same testing and research and standardization that we see with our pharmaceutical drugs. I'm going to look much more carefully at the research done on glutathione and on Immunocal.
Donc, je vais vous montrer ce qui a été fait comme recherche sur le glutathion et sur Immunocal.
Let's just look at a little bit of history on glutathione. Here we have the discoverer of what is the Immunocal product, Dr. Gustavo Bunos.
Ici, nous avons le découvreur de Immunocal, le docteur Gustavo Bunos.
He is the first person to come across a natural protein that raises and sustains glutathione levels in the human being. Dr. Bunos has received many prizes for his research. He was acknowledged by the Canadian Research Institute as a for his lifetime research award. The co-discoverer of Immunocal is Dr. Patricia Kongshaven. She's actually known as the grandmother of clinical immunology. She wrote the first chapter in the first book that was generally distributed to the medical community on clinical immunology. The next person I want to look at is Dr. Wolf Droge.
La prochaine personne que je voudrais mentionner, c'est le docteur Wolf-Drug.
He is the first person to describe the effects of glutathione on the immune system in a living organism. He is an internationally recognized expert on free radical biology and as it relates to the aging process. He has written hundreds of articles published in international journals across the world. He also wrote major papers on Immunocal specifically. This is Dr. Mark Weinberg. He was the former president of the International AIDS Society for 3 terms. He's also written extensively on Immunocal. And finally, uh, this is Dr. Luc Montagnier. He won the 2008 Nobel Prize in Medicine for the discovery of the AIDS virus. And in one of the books that he edited, there's a whole chapter on Immunocal, not just glutathione, on Immunocal. So there are many dozens of other researchers associated with our company. These are just a few, and we're extremely proud of the type and the level of researchers associated with our company. So let me draw your attention to this slide. Um, we're looking at research studies done on glutathione. We're going to look specifically at a website called pubmed.gov. This is the major repository of research articles in the world. Any researcher is on this website every day. Most doctors who are interested in looking at original research goes to PubMed. It really is considered the authoritative website to look up original research. In 1980, there were maybe 4,000 articles on glutathione in PubMed. This year, there's over 190,000 articles on glutathione that could be found on PubMed. Let me just put this in context. There are probably 40,000 articles written on vitamin C and maybe 70,000 articles that you could find on vitamin E. So there are more articles written on glutathione than vitamin C and vitamin E put together. So glutathione will soon become part of everybody's knowledge, part of their everyday language. Now, this might be the most important slide that you're going to see today. Number one, glutathione. If you eat glutathione, it will not raise your body's glutathione. Glutathione becomes rapidly broken down in the digestive tract, and very little, if any, gets into the cell. Now, glutathione already exists in all of your cells, and glutathione is manufactured in all of your cells. So the way to raise glutathione is to feed your cells the specific nutrients that it needs to manufacture glutathione. And we call these glutathione precursors. So glutathione levels in the body can only be raised by eating glutathione precursors. I draw your attention to these two books from America. In the United States, there's a major publication called the PDR, or Physician's Desk Reference. In Canada, we have a similar book called a CPS, or Compendium of Pharmaceuticals and Specialties. Now, one of these books will sit on the desk of every single doctor and every single pharmacist in North America. And what these books contain are all pharmaceuticals that a doctor can prescribe for their patients. But there's one substance in the book that is not a pharmaceutical, it's a natural product called Immunocal. And if you look up glutathione precursors, you'll find one of two substances. One of them, which I'm sure you've heard of, is NAC or N-acetylcysteine. And those of you who have used it, particularly at therapeutic doses, knows that it has potential side effects, such as nausea, vomiting, and other gastrointestinal side effects. It also has a short half-life, somewhere between 3 and 4 hours. So in order to maintain steady glutathione levels, NAC would need to be taken 3 or 4 times a day. And if you felt sick the first time you took it, you're going to feel 4 times as sick the fourth time you take it. Finally, the effects of NAC wear off after a few weeks. You end up building free cysteine in the blood, something we call hypercystinemia. And this is actually a pro-oxidant state, which is exactly what you don't want to have. The other glutathione precursor that you'll find in these books is Immunocal, and described as a glutathione precursor. Immunocal provides the richest source of natural glutathione precursors. We can look at the roles of glutathione in the cell. We could talk about 20 or even 30 different rules, but for the sake of time, let's keep this simple. Think of glutathione. What a great idea. And what do the letters IDEA stand for? I stands for the immune system. D stands for detoxification. E for energy. And A for antioxidant. Let's look at these in turn. I tell the general public to view glutathione literally as food for the immune system. People who are low in glutathione are immunocompromised. For example, the classic immunocompromised disease, AIDS, is by definition a glutathione deficiency disease. But you will also find glutathione deficiency in any major infection, whether it's hepatitis, other viruses, or bacterial infection. These all suffer from glutathione deficiency. People who raise their glutathione levels have a chance of having optimized their immune function. I also tell people to think of glutathione next to water. Next to water is the most important critical detoxification substance we have in our body. Now, many of you have used, for example, NAC for the detoxification of a paracetamol or acetaminophen overdose. Paracetamol or acetaminophen actually is quite a deadly toxin if overdosed. In fact, it's the commonly used drug to commit suicide. By raising glutathione using the drug N-acetylcysteine, we're able to detoxify the acetaminophen and save these people's lives. So most doctors will know about the acetaminophen or paracetamol overdose, but they don't know that glutathione is also responsible for the removal of thousands of other toxins, including pesticides and herbicides and heavy metals. And really, the list is endless of the poisons that appear in the food that we eat, the water that we drink, and the air that we breathe. E stands for energy, and we could talk many hours upon this. But just for the sake of time, let me just mention one of its functions. Our mitochondria use up a tremendous amount of oxygen. And one of the results is free radical production or oxyradicals. These oxyradicals will actually slow down the function of the mitochondria. And a steady supply of glutathione is what gets rid of these free radicals in the mitochondria. The mitochondria would literally burn up were it not for a consistent flow of glutathione. And finally, A for antioxidant. Glutathione is referred to as the master antioxidant. Now, why use a term like master antioxidant? It sounds like a marketing term, but it's actually quite an accurate term. We know of between 2,000 and 4,000 different antioxidant substances. None of these antioxidants can work properly without the presence of glutathione. Glutathione recharges these antioxidants. Glutathione recycles these antioxidants. And if you think of antioxidants like working as a bunch of gears in a clock, well, a clock requires a spring, and the spring that is driving the whole antioxidant process is glutathione. Now, the problem is that we lose glutathione daily. There are many drugs that lower glutathione. Our poor diet contributes to glutathione deficiency. Injury, trauma, burns, stress, infection is absolutely correlated with dropping glutathione levels.
Les infections sont vraiment répertoriées comme diminuant le niveau de glutathion.
We mentioned toxins in the environment, but one thing that you're all suffering from, and I hope you continue to suffer from this, is the aging process. Glutathione levels drop with the aging process. So glutathione replenishment becomes absolutely critical. Let's just look at a few interesting studies. So I mentioned that glutathione levels fall as we age. And here it's demonstrated on this graph. So what's unusual about this graph? We see that if we measure glutathione levels in people who are like 100 years or so, they actually have near normal glutathione levels. The question is, why? They have high glutathione levels. That's the reason why they're 100 years old. They have the ability to maintain good glutathione levels so that their friends and their enemies have been selected out of the population. This is natural selection at its finest. Now let's look at glutathione levels and levels of health. This is a study that was done many years ago in a geriatric population. They looked at glutathione levels in young people. You see that in the blue bar. And they compared it to glutathione levels in what we called the healthy elderly. So these are healthy older people that only visited their doctor when they needed to. The yellow bar are older people that had to visit their doctor on a regular basis to get their blood pressure checked, to get their medication refilled. And finally, the red bar were older people that were hospitalized. We see a perfect correlation with glutathione levels and their level of health. Let's move on to some Immunocal studies. This is a study that we recently did looking at the use of Immunocal in autism. Now, I need to mention that a number of years ago, it was discovered that autistic kids A full 80% of them had decreased glutathione activity. So I won't get into the mechanics of why low glutathione levels contributes to autism, but it's important for you to know that autistic kids are glutathione deficient. So clearly, we were able to show an increase in glutathione levels using the Immunocal. This was a double-blind, randomized human study. And not only were we able to show an improvement in glutathione levels, we were able to show improvement in different areas of behavior. These kids were communicating better, they were socializing better, and many other measurements. And what this study led to was a patent application that was approved for Immunocal as a treatment for autistic spectrum disorder. So I'm sorry, it says here patents pending. This patent was actually approved a number of months ago. Other patents that we're applying for is for Immunocal in the treatment of neuropsychiatric or neurodegenerative disorders. We're talking about Parkinson's, we're talking about Alzheimer's. There's another patent that we're expecting approval soon, and that's for the treatment of traumatic brain injury. Immunocal has close to 80 international patents. Here's a patent for the treatment of HIV/AIDS patients. Here's a patent that we received for Immunocal as an anti-cancer composition, a natural product that has a patent as a chemotherapy. Let's just look at one of the studies that we did in cancer to get this patent. You could see by the title itself that we were successful in reversing weight loss in lung cancer. These were terminal patients. We were witnessing what we call cachexia or muscle loss in these patients, which define them as terminal. And these patients at the same time were receiving either chemotherapy or radiotherapy. Here we see the improvement in body weight and body cell mass. This was the first time that a nutritional intervention was able to reverse cachexia or muscle loss. This was only previously able to be done with the use of steroid medication. We also looked at different quality of life measurements. These patients were less anxious. They had better appetite. They were less depressed. And of course, you're going to ask, did these patients live longer? Well, we went back and looked at these patients a year after this study. 50% of the placebo group had died. A full 80% of the people taking Immunocal were still alive. Well, we could talk about many more studies that we have published on Immunocal. Here you see a booklet with 85 studies that are published that show up in the medical literature. Actually, the current number is now up to 92 published articles.
Et même aujourd'hui, le vrai chiffre, on est rendu au-delà de 92 articles publiés.
And these include 23 gold standard studies, which means that they're human studies, they're randomized, they're double blind, they're placebo controlled. We're happy for you to examine this book. Just ask the person who asked you on the call to get you a copy. So if you're looking for a natural product that has the clinical research to show that the product works, well, then you are looking at the right place. I know you, as doctors, are always being asked, Doctor, can you point me to a natural product? And very often you're hesitant to do so because the research just wasn't there. Well, now you can turn to Immunocal and be comfortable that your peers have supported this product, and please use it well.